Midwest Theme Park Podcast, Season 2, Episode 4. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Midwest Theme Park Podcast presented by Midwest Theme Park Enthusiasts. I'm Nick McMahon.
And this is Jack.
And today we have Thanasy Telios with us today. Joining in, he was a winner from our fan page guest contest last season. We didn't quite get a chance to get him in on last season's podcast, so we brought him over for Season 2. It's good to have you here.
Good evening. How are you guys doing this evening?
We're doing very well. Thank you. All right. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to chat a little bit about everybody's thoughts on Lost Island. We briefly talked about that in episode 1, but we've got somebody new here, so we'd like to get, opinions on it. So you made some visits to Lost Island, right, this year?
Yeah. I went to a couple construction tours before the park opened, and then I went multiple times during the calendar season. It was really cool to kind of see it progress while it's being built. And then I was there on opening day, one of the first probably 100 people that were there opening day. And a lot of stuff, was closed. Kind of felt like first day at Adventureland this year as well. Just not everything was, serviced and certified to be open. But right away, just hearing the music, seeing the theming, and the flat ride collection is just phenomenal. And that blew me away for a brand new park. How about you guys? Have you guys checked it out this year at all?
I was able to make it up once on, I believe it was the third day they were open. So everything except for the two that didn't open this year, Matagani and the Log Flume, as well as Skyborn, the drop tower. Those were the three that weren't open when I was there. But everything else was, and I thought it was a great park for that one time. I'm definitely going to be making it up next year, next operating season, to just see, obviously Matagani and the Log Flume, but see what else they do.
Yeah, I didn't make it up myself. It was a tough year for me, but I fully intend to make it up next season. The Birch family has done a fantastic job of the park, and if you go to our fan page at Lost Island Fans Iowa, you do see some comments about the lack of shade, but folks gonna have to realize that it's a brand new ground up park. They're not gonna get everything down to the T, especially that first operating season. But the feedback that I have seen has been that it's a phenomenal ground up park. That's incredibly rare to see something like that come from the ground up from a private investment standpoint, where you're not talking about a large corporation making an investment. And I think they just have knocked it out of the water. And we have more to come on Lost Island in coming episodes here. So definitely want to stay tuned to those episodes. But we're excited to see what comes for next year. I know that they have a lot planned. Any speculations, Thanasy, about what we might see on the, in the future?
Yeah, those are great questions. And I just want to also say I completely agree with your last two previous points as well. So if you look at Adventureland's opening year, or even Disneyland, both of those parks had hardly any trees. It's very common not to have those mature trees established right away. So I definitely agree with that point. And then I also agree, you just don't see anyone open ground up parks anywhere in the United States. And even corporations like Cedar Fair and Six Flags, they usually acquire, they don't build from the ground up. So it's really cool to see that here in Iowa and the Midwest. As for speculation, so one of the things that they kind of talked about construction tour I was at was year 2, they wanted to kind of get more aggressive and have a few more things. So they hinted heavily that they wanted to have an October event, like a haunt of some sort. They didn't go into many details, but I think as we've seen it with Adventureland, how packed Adventureland was at the end of the season for their haunt, I think that would be a really cool thing to see. I already think the park has a really good footprint. They definitely eventually need to look at, adding a couple roller coasters at IAPA, which is where a lot of these companies and private owners go and look at rides and manufacturers of the community and see kind of what the new technology is. During their presentation, they showed potentially a flying coaster and a spinning coaster. I think both of those could be potentially really cool for the lineup. And even during your guys' episode last season, when you guys asked my question about their thoughts on RMC, Eric even mentioned that he was going to put that design that didn't end up being created on the top shelf. So it doesn't sound like it's potentially gone forever. It was an idea originally. So I think that's pretty cool as well. But I think just, continuing to grow, I think having season passes will allow more local people in the Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and Cedar Rapids, Cedar Valley areas to attend every day. And that's huge for Adventureland too, because a lot of locals are the ones that buy the season passes. And just having the park more full is going to make that atmosphere feel amazing. So I'm really excited to see what season 2 brings for Lost Island.
So, kind of branching off of that a little bit, I guess. As someone that went multiple times this year, did you see any like major growth just this season alone?
Yeah, so the last time I went with some of my ace friends, which is American Coasters Enthusiasts, and that day was the busiest day I saw, and I think it was like 900 people. So like that day, the park just felt completely different because it felt like, when you get to a theme park, it's kind of busy, but not like an hour long busy, like when you have to wait for the monster when it's outside of the queue. But there's people in line on every ride, and like the atmosphere just felt completely different. I could just tell like the workers, seemed proud and happy to finally have people appreciating this wonderful park that it is. And even like the trees, like you could see the trees growing a little bit. And one thing that I thought was also underrated that a lot of people didn't talk about is they have really good food. And the last time I went there, I had the coconut shrimp. And I just feel like they've got their food game kind of going pretty strong for season 1.
Yeah, that's something that we actually talked with Eric about in the podcast episode. He did mention that they really want to do a good thing with food. They were a little nervous about some aspects because they had seen some things not working in the Universals of the world and things like that. And so they were really struggling initially with, do we just do the cheeseburgers and the typical theme park food, or do we go outside of our comfort zone and do what we want? And it sounds like that's working out for them pretty well. They're offering a little bit of everything for everybody. And, Jack will give me a hard time for this, but I'm a food guy. I love to talk about food. It's, theme park food it's theme park food. But anytime you get to experience something new or exciting in the food side of things, I always look forward to it,
Big problem with being a theme park food guy, going off of what you said, is that you're very rarely trying something new when you go to a theme park. It's almost always chicken fingers, cheeseburgers, fries, like basic stuff, which is why I think it's so good that Lost Island is able to provide other much more unique food items.
Yeah, I would agree with that. One of the interesting things that I think the theme park community is kind of adapting these almost like localized events for like Christmas and Halloween and stuff. When I was at Adventureland's sister park, Kennywood, which is owned by Palace, they actually had this summer like a food festival where you'd buy tickets and you could try food from 6 different countries. And I did that. Food was absolutely phenomenal. And I know like Knott's Berry Farm is another park that's been kind of doing that. So it'd be interesting to see, especially since another Palace park did that, if we're gonna maybe see like Adventureland, step up their food game and maybe have like a food festival. And Nick, you being a foodie, I think that you'd really enjoy that.
Well, I'm surprised Jack's not out there giving you a hard time for calling me a foodie.
I think being a foodie is fantastic.
But yeah, I think we've all been to Adventureland enough to know that their food really hasn't changed a lot over the years. But it's really important that we point out they do have some excellent offerings. I was talking to somebody that's been going to Adventureland, and I forget even who it was, to be honest, but they've been going to Adventureland for a long time, and I brought up the chicken at Doc and Leon's, and they didn't even know you could get fried chicken at Doc and Leon's. It's like you kind of got
No.
to expand out of your typical comfort zone and check some of these things out because you just never know what you might get, you know. First thing that comes to me is, as a Adventureland person who's been going there for a long time, I tried the big pork. Um, what is it? It's over at the Campbell's stand, and it's a giant fried pork tenderloin. I tried that for the first time this year. Was it the best tenderloin I've ever had? No, but it's just something new to eat, you know. So it's like you just got to check it out sometimes and step out of your comfort zone. So, and
I think Adventureland has like what would be the basic first step outside of theme park food. Like they have the monster burger. They got like the tenderloin, the fish and chips. Like
they have good options.
things out. Yeah, they had the fried chicken. They have things outside of the usual realm of theme park food. It's just not nearly as far outside as Lost Island is.
Yeah,
And I don't think that it's a bad thing, really.
right.
I think that like they want to be there, and that's a good thing. They do it very well.
And you know, kind of like we talked about, they do have to balance. They have to balance it out. They don't want to have a bunch of selections of food that people won't eat because then they're not going to sell food. My son tried the orange chicken at the Walking and Rolling food truck by Phoenix this year. He did not like it. You know, it wasn't like we make it at home. So, but he tried it. You know, he expanded his usual go to and tried something different. And I think that was something a little bit different than we're used to seeing in a theme park. But you know, we like to stop and go eat at Spectators because they have good food. Now it's your typical bar food, but it's quite a bit of step above of the typical theme park food, and the price is actually a little better too.
Yeah, I would agree. Spectators is a really good option just right outside the park. And kind of what Jack said as well. I think one of the things I do appreciate about Adventureland's food is the price is really affordable compared to a lot of other theme parks. You know, you go to Six Flags and some of these other places, and just for a burger and fries, you're looking at $18. So I think that's something that Adventureland's done a really good job historically and continues to do. And another thing is I think their dessert game is really, really strong. And I love the fresh cookies. And this year, I don't know if you guys tried them, but I tried the jalapeno cheese curds. They're really good.
Did not
The
try
only
those.
I saw they came out with what two or three different kinds of new cheese curds, and I tried the caramel ones, and they were very okay. I wasn't like blown away by them or anything, but I also got them on a day where it was like 130 degrees out, so it might be kind of tainting that. I already didn't feel good. Then I had those, and it was just downward spiral into going home.
Yeah, I can relate. So did you make it to Adventureland at all this year? You made a few visits. Are you season pass holder at Adventureland?
Yeah, I've been a season pass holder pretty much the entire time I've lived in the metro. I'm a huge roller coaster enthusiast, so anytime I get the opportunity to be able to ride anything, even at my home park being Adventureland, I want to take that opportunity. I adore Monster. One of the things that was blessed to have here locally was the event that you guys did for ERT. That was absolutely phenomenal. My brother and I attended, and being able to ride the Monster over and over and not even having to get out of the queue was just phenomenal. And for a lot of people listening too, like we're so blessed to have Monster here in Iowa. Like it really does have elite hang time. So for example, their sister coaster hang time over at Knott's Berry Farm doesn't have much hang time. So just being able to have that event and ride Monster over and over, that was just phenomenal for my 22 season.
Yeah, it's something that we definitely want to make a yearly tradition. I did get some feedback from several people that they were looking for a night ERT event, and they didn't attend because they wanted to see a night event happen. So I'm working really hard, and we're working really hard to work with the park and try to get a night event. This year's ERT event was our first ever ERT event, and it came together rather quickly. So we kind of had to steer away from that, but it's something that we're hoping to do next season. And like I said in episode 1, the biggest thing we need from everybody is your support, because we don't make money with our group. So the cost of providing this event, we just ask it to be shared. We try to keep it as reasonable as possible. We had a target this year and we were able to make our target. So we were very fortunate on that aspect. And it's glad to hear you had a great time. And, we look forward to putting this on in the future. We'll hope to keep it monster. I would love to see as a pipe dream that we get the tornado RMC and then we could have an ERT event for that. But until then, Monster is just a phenomenal coaster to have an ERT event for. And we are very blessed to have enough people that were willing to participate and make this event possible. And again, I can't thank the park enough for working with us on that, and letting us put that event on and giving us the extra perk of getting to ride. Did you get to ride Dragon Slayer for the first ride of that?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun as well. And then that behind the scenes tour, that was pretty phenomenal for Palace to do for us as well. Just be able to go underneath the maintenance building and kind of see how everything works underneath the track.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So your Adventureland visits, have you made it to Phantom Fall Fest?
I have. And actually, the last time I went, it was the whole parking lot was full. The atmosphere is really good. And I've been to some of the larger chains for their haunts, and I would say Adventureland's really comparable, especially for season 1. And the haunted houses are pretty decent as well. Did you guys attend and have a favorite aspect for the haunt?
As of us recording, I have not been yet, but here coming up shortly, I will have been. And I think that our episodes are going to get a little out of order here. But as of now, when we are recording this, I have not been.
Yeah, I have not made it. Unfortunately, this season, as I really want to make it up there, it's just I have other commitments that I have to keep here. So unfortunately, this season I will not make it, but I plan on making it next season. So I'm very excited to see what it's all about. If I was a resident or a local, I could make it, but coming up there and doing the night haunt is usually means a hotel stay, and I just had other commitments of myself, so just was not able to do it this year. But and I'm bummed because the the feedback on the fan page has just been absolutely. I think I've seen 2 negative comments, uh, and we've had a lot of positive feedback. So the park really knocked this one out.
Absolutely agree. And also extends the season. And then also just think about the revenue that potentially brings to Palace to be able to add more additions and continue to add those additions to Adventureland. So I'm a huge supporter of this festival. And I think, in my personal opinion, my favorite aspect of it, other than the amazing atmosphere, is being able to have those night rides. Because besides on Saturdays in the summer, it is kind of hard sometimes to get those night rides at Adventureland with the shorter season. And the only of those night rides is so easy on like Tornado and Monster, and those night rides are phenomenal.
I agree 100%. Yeah, I mean, I the park is just. I've always said this. The atmosphere just completely changes at night, and you wish that the park was open later hours, but unfortunately, it seems like in a post-COVID world that staffing is more of a challenge. So, and people just it tends to be a lot slower at night. So I get that they close a little earlier at night, but it would just be so cool to just to live it. Growing up at the park in the '90s, I remember the park being open till 10 o'clock. sometimes even 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock on weeknights, 11 o'clock on weekends. And, I'll never forget that. It's been a long time since it's had hours like that, but it's just one of the things that made the park special to me.
Yeah, I agree. Is there any like other festivals or events that you guys would like to see Palace or Lost Island at in the future?
It's hard to say. I'd love to see the operating season somewhat extended, but it gets hard. I mean, this morning I woke up and it was 21 degrees outside. It's with the possibility of snow coming in November. I think that they're just playing it safe and they can't guarantee it. I know that fairly recently Carowinds announced a year-round operation, and so that's something that is, I would love to have that here, but I just know it's not possible with our weather. A winter event, maybe that would be cool to see, like some kind of a winter fest, but I don't know how successful that would be. I know that they're setting up for the Holly Jolly Holiday Lights. Did I get that right? That they do
Yeah.
for Make a Wish.
Jolly holiday lights.
Yeah. You know, I know they're setting up for that in the campground. Would it be cool to see them integrate some of that inside of the park? Yeah, but I don't know how realistic something like that is, or if it would be a financially sound idea. But I would love to see more events, and even a slightly earlier operating season in the spring would be cool to see too. But we'll just have to see what they plan.
It's really hard to say no to a food festival though, of some kind.
Yeah, I think a food festival, and then if you guys ever go to like any of the Cedar Fair parks when they have like their circus and parades like down their Main Street area, I feel like Adventureland's Main Street is perfect for something like that, especially if we don't see the circus potentially come back.
Grand Carnivale is definitely a spectacle. I know my dad absolutely loves Grand Carnivale at Valley Fair.
Yeah, it's well done.
So did anybody here make it to Oktoberfest?
I think it was just you.
Just me? Okay. This was the first time we went to Oktoberfest. We enjoyed it. There was a lot of negative comments about it, and it makes me wonder if Palace is planning on eliminating Oktoberfest. I don't believe they do an Oktoberfest event at any of their other parks, and just going straight from regular operational season to haunts. It would probably be a bummer to see it. I guess I can't really have a good opinion on that either way, because for us it was enjoyable. But you know, we had a great time, and I hope it's something that can continue, because the best part of it was, and no offense to our younger crowd here, but it was a lot of fun getting to ride roller coasters and rides with just adults,
Oh,
and
come on.
no kids cutting the lines.
Unbelievable.
There were some adults that just couldn't seem to really handle their adult beverages, but it was. I'm not gonna lie. I love going there with my son. It's what makes it exciting. But it was a whole different experience, and one day out of the year without the kids was kind of fun. I can't lie. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't go this year, but I've been to the first three events that they had, and I love Oktoberfest. I think it's a great event. I would always get a lot of my friends to attend. And I would agree. I think having a day for adults and be able to ride the monster as much as you want and anything else, it's a lot of fun. And I do worry, because even in like that Q&A that we had during your guys' ERT event, I think there is some worries of Palace about the overconsumption of alcohol. And I wonder, with them not really having at their other parks, if they're going to want to continue it. And I really hope they continue it, because it's amazing. It's one of my favorite Adventureland events. I recommend it to anyone in Iowa or the surrounding states, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, I agree. I think the biggest complaints is there was no, I guess in previous years, outside vendors have been brought in, things like that to kind of help with the food. And I think that aspect was gone from it. And then everybody loves the pork tornadoes, which we love as well. And they didn't get the headlining event. Gonna be completely honest with you, the band was the last. They were kind of like the headlining event, the last band, and they just. I'm sorry, they just weren't my cup of tea. And I think a lot of people agreed with that. Some people enjoyed them, and everybody has their opinions. I just don't think they were a good fit for the very last um, act of the night. I think it should have been uh, the Pork Tornadoes because they traditionally have been the closing act for the night. They do a great event, a great show, and I think people would have stayed later had they been the last act. We would have stayed later, but we about 2 songs in with the damn band, we just weren't feeling it, and we decided to head out.
So I guess just to wrap it up here, do you have any questions for either Nick or I?
I currently do not have any questions now.
Okay, well, we appreciate you joining in, and so again, apologies that it took so long to get you in, but we wanted to make sure we got you in. So
No worries, and I appreciate being able to come on and talk to you guys. Huge fan of your podcast and Facebook page, and I'm listening. You guys should subscribe and follow them, and I look forward to future ERT events, and I appreciate you guys.
yep. And anytime you ever want to join us as a guest, we'd be happy to have you. We've got a lot of great episodes planned for this season. So everybody just make sure you're listening and subscribing and following. Um, we need that. That helps us keep this going. And we will see you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Midwest Theme Park Podcast, presented by Midwest Theme Park Enthusiasts. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We are also now uploading content to TikTok. Please drop us a comment and let us know what you would like to hear on future episodes.